my next guest, the local government minister, Simon Clarke, who joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning,
Good
Julia.
morning. Now, we're going to be talking about Boris Johnson's £2 billion cycling and walking revolution, but I think the travel that's most concerning people at the moment is whether or not they can go on a foreign holiday or not. People arriving back from Spain since midnight on Saturday night have had to go into 2-week quarantine. The Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, says that the quarantine across the whole country is not justified. Why do you think it is?
Well, it's a very serious situation in Spain. We've taken advice, as you'd expect, from the JCB, JVC, the Joint Biosecurity Committee, which advises ministers on the scientific data. We've seen this very sharp uptick in cases in Spain over recent days. There were 2,000 cases reported on Friday. That marked a 75% increase from the middle of the week. And it's clearly the trend which is of major concern there, that this pace of increase, which required a sharp intervention from government to prevent risk from being re-imported back into the UK, just at a time when we've been able to make such progress in getting the virus under control here.
But why did it have to be across the whole country? And why does it have to include the Balearic and the Canary Islands, where there isn't an uptick in cases? You may as well quarantine people who've been to Bradford.
No, look, there's always going to be transfers of risk within a country. The JBC advice was clear that there is now a situation in Spain which requires intervention. I'm afraid it is simply a reality of foreign travel at the moment. We all don't like it, but it's just the factual reality that in a global pandemic, you try to create air bridges. They're an important tool to enable foreign travel, but as you do so, it is implicit within that if the situation changes, then we have to have the flexibility to respond.
Okay, the government always made it clear that there would be local lockdowns in the UK and there could possibly be quarantine from foreign travel. People looking to move a holiday from Spain to somewhere else in Europe right now, people looking to book a holiday to get a well-earned break after the lockdown, where should they be going and where shouldn't they be going? Can you give us some advice?
Well, it's not for me to play the nation's travel agent. What I would say is, subject to that condition I've set out, which is that, look, if the situation changes, we have to change the advice that we issue. Then people are totally at liberty to go abroad and to have that holiday. Equally, they are very welcome to stay at home and support the UK tourist sector after what has been such an appallingly difficult few months. It is for each individual and family to work out what level of risk they're comfortable experiencing at the moment. And obviously the fact that we may, although we hope not, have to do further similar measures with.
But hold on a minute. You say people have to decide what level of risk they're willing to take. People were not thinking about it being a level of risk of them having to be quarantined when they returned from their holiday. People were, do you want to risk going on an airplane, wearing a mask, going to another country? But when you announced that it was safe for us to travel to these other countries and people were able to get flights, I don't think most people thought there was a possibility that there could be quarantining brought back in again so quickly to one of our closest neighbours that was ahead of us on the curve in the coronavirus pandemic anyway. So how can people weigh up the risks if they're not given full information?
Well, we absolutely try to provide the fullest information that we can. Clearly, this situation moved incredibly quickly in Spain. I mean, we opened the air bridge almost a month ago. As I say, the uptick in cases that we're talking about here only happened at the back end of last week. Up until this time last week, there was no reason to be concerned about Spain. That is, I'm afraid, the challenge of coronavirus, that a situation can evolve very, very quickly. And I think listeners would expect us to respond quickly. I think we'd be criticised very strongly if we didn't, frankly, when we get new data which shows that the situation has changed.
And what about financial help for people who are now forced to quarantine, who didn't realise, those who don't have a nice job where they can work with their laptop at home, as most of the people who are making these decisions can? People who actually have to go out to work, people in insecure work, 0 hours, contract work. What financial help is going to be available to them?
Well, the first thing to say is that we strongly encourage employers to take a sensible and supportive approach to this issue and to work with their staff to find viable options for them either to work from home or to keep them on full pay. If someone is in a difficult situation, it's really important to emphasise that schemes like universal credit are available, that they can pay out advances quickly if that is required, and that the state will be there ultimately as a safety net if people do find themselves in a difficult situation in response to this. And I fully recognise, look, I represent a constituency in the north of England, which is a heavy manufacturing area, just how challenging this is for people. No one wants to have to do it, but we also have to try and protect the public here. And I think people will understand that.
OK, well, let's talk about travel closer to home and this announcement from Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister today, kickstarting a £2 billion revolution in cycling and walking, including bikes on prescription. Is this really going to work to tackle the obesity epidemic?
Well, it's part of a multi-pronged strategy to tackle obesity. So we talked earlier in the week about how you can manage diet, but it's also about exercise. And this is about trying to make it more viable for lots more people. The truth is that our cycle infrastructure simply doesn't enable a lot of people to feel safe when cycling. So creating thousands of miles of dedicated cycle routes, encouraging people to bring old bikes back into use by bike repair vouchers, e-bikes as another alternative. All of these are tools, frankly, to equip more people to do this, and obviously to improve their health while doing so.
Again, you say a bike repair voucher. Given if someone was going to cycle, they would be saving a lot of transport costs, whether it was petrol or a train or a bus ticket. I think they can probably afford to get their bike repaired with that cost. E-bikes. What is the purpose of the government subsidising people buying a minimum cost of £1,000 e-bike? The whole point of a bike is you're using your own muscles and your heart to make them work, rather than sitting on an electric bike. And you're going to be spending hard-earned taxpayers' money subsidising people buying a bike for £1,000.
It does still involve a measure of exercise, let's be clear here. And it's about making sure that bikes are available to the widest possible range of people.
They're already, you can get a bike for 50 quid on eBay.
Well, and look, there are many people here. I mean, we've just been referring to the fact some people do live, obviously, in pretty straitened circumstances, particularly after what we've just been through. It's about making this more available to as many people as we possibly can.
Making £1,000 e-bike, e-bikes more available. Is that a good use of taxpayers' money?
Well, Julia, we're not paying £1,000 towards it.
You're offering a 1/3 subsidy, probably, towards it.
Yeah, well, hang on. We're making this more available to you. I think that is the right thing to
do. No. You're talking about a £300 subsidy to someone who can afford a £1,000 bike. If you can afford a £1,000 bike, you don't need a subsidy from anybody.
Well, the point is here, it's about trying to encourage a modal shift. And there are costs, Julia, to the health service, enormous costs of the fact that the UK is currently, by and large, overweight. That incurs billions of pounds worth of costs for the taxpayer here. If we can help to mitigate that by encouraging people to make healthier choices, then actually you are spending to save here. And I think that is, I mean, we've seen, frankly, that nothing else prior to now has really worked. So encouraging action on diet and enabling exercise is a sensible two-pronged strategy to try and change that.
You think giving someone who's already pretty well-to-do, so they can afford an e-bike costing £1,000, you think giving them 300 quid of other people's hard-earned taxpayers' money is going to be the difference between them on a wet November morning going, yeah, I'll go and cycle to work instead of getting in the car? Really? I mean, do you honestly think that's a sensible use of taxpayers' money?
Well, look, this is a multi-pronged package here, and equally, it's giving you the voucher to bring your old bike out of storage and back into use. This is a range of measures, and the infrastructure investment is equally as important as the support for bringing bikes into use. Making sure that we've got the road network, the cycle network, enabling people to go and do this safely. It is, I think, something which most people welcome. We've got Chris Boardman, the former professional cyclist, saying that he thinks today represents a major breakthrough. I think people will see that this is something which will change where we are on cycling as a country and make it much more viable for hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, again, but is the viability cost or is the viability safety? And obviously, that's a big concern. But for a lot of people, getting two kids to schools, which perhaps aren't very nearby, getting them to school in time for preschool activities and the 8:30 or 8:45 start, and then getting to work on time, picking up shopping on the way home, and doing it when it's pouring down with rain in the autumn or the winter. I'm not entirely sure that the cost of an e-bike is the thing that's stopping an awful lot of people cycling.
No, look, I mean, we're clear. I don't expect everyone in the country to suddenly take up cycling. This isn't exactly how that's going to work.
So how many people do you expect to?
It's about encouraging more people to do that. And clearly we do expect this will incentivise a lot more people to
How many
come
people?
forward with this. Well, I haven't done the modelling on that.
Has anyone in the government done the modelling?
Of course, the government does modelling when it introduces.
Okay, so the government knows how many more people spending £2 billion on a cycling and walking revolution will lead to actually carrying out, cycling or walking as opposed to driving or getting the bus to work.
Yeah, look, if you put the infrastructure in place, if you make it easier for people to get their bike back into condition to use it, if you create school streets, for example, to encourage children to cycle to school, of course you're going to encourage a change in habits. All of government is about trying to make rational choices about how to ensure that we get the outcomes that we want, how we incentivize the right choices in life. And that is what this is doing. It's about making cycling more viable for lots of people at a time when we know there is a clear linkage between being overweight and being susceptible to coronavirus, among all the other health reasons why this is the right thing to do.
Okay, when we've got all of these measures, we've got the ban on buy one get one free chocolate and crisp offers. We're going to have calorie labelling. We're going to have a ban on adverts for so-called junk food. We're going to have this encouragement for people to cycle and walk. All of that, prescriptions to join Weight Watchers and the like from the GP. All of that put together, it's going to cost billions and billions of pounds. It's going to have a massive knock-on effect on the food and drinks industry as well. Well, you say the government's done the modelling, okay, except you're in local government ministry, you're not necessarily dealing with that yourself, but you're saying that the government actually has a measure of what will be a success and what will be a failure of this policy, because it's billions of pounds of mine and my listeners' taxpayers' money. How will we know whether it's actually worked or not? How many people will have to lose weight? How much weight will they have to lose? And how many billions will need to be saved for the NHS to make this worthwhile?
Well, I am a low-tax conservative too, Julia, so rest assured I am equally as concerned about protecting the taxpayer interest here. But there is a massive taxpayer interest in the fact that the health costs linked to obesity are enormous and rising in our society. Roughly speaking, 1 in 3 primary school children is overweight. 2 in 3 UK adults are deemed overweight. We've got to take action to try and tackle this.
So what is the measure of success and the measure of failure?
Well, clearly this is something which will play out over the medium term, because you don't change these habits or outcomes overnight. But it is about whether, as we look back in the mid-2020s onwards, whether the UK is more active, is eating more healthily, is making better lifestyle choices, which get us more into line with the rest of Western Europe.
Okay,
the UK
but once again, we're spending billions of pounds of other people's money to tell people, to encourage people, to force people to do certain things. The government, you said they've done the modelling. What would be the measure that says this was a successful policy that has saved money overall for the government and the NHS and has improved people's lives living longer? What is the measurement that there's going to be? Because there's never going to be any way of saying whether these have worked or not, is there? So in which case,
I think there is,
how do we know they will work?
The measurement would be if you see a gradual decline in the number of people who are overweight. And you can measure cycle usage. Of course, there are metrics that you can put in place to see, to monitor all of these things. That's part of the routine data gathering that the government does. The ultimate test of this is whether we are a healthier nation at the end of these changes. We're investing this £2 billion over a 5-year period. You would expect to see gains slowly but steadily as that investment goes on, and to see more people making healthier lifestyle choices. I think that is a good goal for us to have. There's no miracle cure to this, but it is about trying to make sure that we do, as a country, make better choices than we have been to date. Okay,
although, as you said at the beginning, nothing's worked so far. Interesting. Thank you for talking to us. Simon Clarke, Minister for Regional Growth and Local Government. Appreciate that.